Hello, this is a bit of a different video to the one I normally make. Obviously, this is a crafting video. Yeah, I've teamed up with Kicking Mustang to produce a crafting pack.
The Winter Crafting Pack is available at Empire Airsoft in the UK and they ship worldwide. I'll put a link in the description for it. The pack is currently retailing at £60. Yeah, that's €70 and $79.50. This is a bit longer than my usual videos, so if you have already purchased the pack and just want to skip ahead to how to craft it, I've split the whole video into chapters and you can just flick to chapter 3.
So for those that follow me on YouTube may not know, I make custom ghillie suits. I thought I'd just do this video on what's in the box and also sort of a slightly more in-depth one than I think the one Mustang's going to be doing. Slightly more in depth on how to craft a suit. We'll just go through what's in the box, take it out bit by bit. So these are the oak coloured leaves. They're the sort of lightest colour of the pack. Yeah, those are the warm beech leaves, and a very small bit of really quite dark leaves.
Within each of these bag of leaves there is a small variation of colour and shade within them.
So other things in the pack, so we got crafting mesh, and I'll come on to that later. That's enough mesh in this. I won't unfold it, but well, I'll unfold it. It's enough to do a whole
Riff.
Easily.
I'll be doing a separate video on how to do a riff wrap, so stay tuned on the channel to see that.
And if you've already got a
Riff
cover, there's loads of other uses you could use it for, like equipment.
Then we've got dyed raffia that has been thinned out to give it a more natural look, and it's been cut to size as well.
This doesn't look like a lot of raffia, I guess, but that is actually more than I would ever put on a suit in the areas I play in. I'm nearly always playing in woodland, and obviously there's very little grass. Well, there is grass, but yeah, whatever. If you want more raffia, I can highly recommend dyed raffia from Empire Airsoft by Mantis Concept Brothers, and it's also available on his website, Mantis Concept Brothers. Then we got coconut rope. It's got a really nice sort of textured look to it, very kind of rough. Yeah, you can see it's close to being, I mean, if you're a bit far away, it's close to being very much like a stick or twig. And then something some of you may have seen, I use it a lot on, I use it on all of my suits. This is acrylic ink and it's burnt umber. We did rebottle it because the cost of one of these little bottles was extortionate. But yeah, there's 30ml in there, same as what you get in the little bottles. And then a paintbrush to apply that. And then of course we have all of the cable ties, and there's 600 cable ties. I would normally use about 500 on a suit and then not that many on the rifle wrap. Yeah, there's a few extra. You shouldn't, if you run out of cable ties, you're probably going wrong in the crafting process somewhere. So yeah, that's the sort of unboxing, if you like. I'll get it all together so you can see it. There we go. So that's what's in the box. Now these, I should say on these leaves, like they are more than enough to do a full suit. Obviously they're all pre-cut and rammed in these bags, but they're very compact. So it may not look like a lot in this shot here, but trust me, there's a lot. So before we actually get into the crafting of the suit, I thought I'd just go over like what we're trying to achieve overall with this kit. So we looked at the KMCS and we thought, like, what is needed if we are going to craft it? It's already pretty good out of the box, but what are the things it's sort of missing, and what can we achieve with the crafting pack? So here's just a really quick sketch of the KMCS suit. So one of the things we realized was, because of the way leaf suits are manufactured, it's quite hard to achieve something called a macro pattern. And a macro pattern is widely understood in camouflage. It's basically just where large sections of the suit are going to be a different shade, colour, texture to the rest of the suit. And it's got to be really important that you sort of split these two colours up. A lot of suits you see crafted these days just pile as much material on as possible, and there's no sort of differentiation over the overall look of the suit. It's all just one colour. So we thought we'd try and achieve that. And also the other thing, so there's that, and also the fact that the KMCS in quite a lot of environments seem to be quite grey or cold, or not really as brown as some of the environments we'd like it for. So first of all, we're going to apply, to start this whole sort of macro pattern off, we're going to apply acrylic ink to just these areas on the suit.
This stage happens right at the start when you haven't crafted the suit. It goes directly onto the bare leaf suit.
And that means anything on the suit already. So if you've got a crafted suit, bear in mind this pack really is meant for an uncrafted KMCS. You can still apply the ink, I guess, but it's really not going to work as well. It's going to get on the probably silk leaves or the other materials you've got on there, and it might not absorb in to those materials as well. This is the best thing we've found for absorbing into the leaves of the KMCS.
Another thing to note on the acrylic ink is it's not really going to work on other leaf suits apart from the North Mountain gear suits and the Novrich suits. The really cheap Amazon ones and the MFH suits, it won't absorb into the leaves on those suits very well. If you're doing a Viper tactical concealment vest, the best thing you want is Molotov spray paint. I'll put a link up for that. Just get some brands of that. Don't worry about the fact that you've bought acrylic ink in this pack. There's so many other uses. If you're getting into crafting, acrylic ink can be used on all kinds of things like webbing. The KMCS just meshes itself, so the gun wrap, and it can be used to recolor the cottons if you really don't like the colors that are on them already. But there shouldn't be any need for that because these cottons have really been tested.
Another thing to note on acrylic ink, if you've got a suit that's been worn maybe 2-3 times, it is going to have picked up quite a lot of mud. You can clean these suits, and it is the ink is going to seep in much better if it's a clean suit. So the thing to do on that is obviously don't put it in the washing machine, because that is going to sort of wrinkle the leaves on the KMCS and lose their sort of 3D form. The way to do it is to soak it in a cold bath for half an hour, let the water really soak in, take it out, and then use either your shower, like cold water from the shower, and just spray the whole suit down and sort of try and run the water off it like that. Or the best thing that I found is like a hose outside. So you go outside, put your finger on the end of the hose and create like a jet of water, and then spray the whole suit down, just running the dirty water off it.
Once you've cleaned it, the suit will still be damp, and that's the point where you want to add the acrylic ink. It seeps in a lot better when it's a bit damp.
When I say damp, I really don't mean like just come out from the wash. Run your hand over it, and if you look at your hand and you've actually got water on your fingertips, then that's still too wet. What I mean by damp is like a cold feeling when you touch the suit. When applying this ink, I'm just going to put up a time lapse of that now. Don't forget, if you're wearing webbing on the front, you are going to want to not put any ink on the front of the suit where that webbing is going to sit, because you want to use this sparingly. I mean, it's, as you see, it's only a small bottle. It's 30ml in here. You can dilute it, but only by a tiny bit. So what I would do is I pour this whole bottle into a cup and then fill this bottle up halfway with water, give it a shake just to get any ink that's left in there, so residue in there out. Squeeze that in, so you've got sort of a whole bottle of ink and then half a bottle of water, and that's all that you can really do to dilute it. So just one thing to note on applying the ink to the KMCS, you don't want to put too much on the brush, so just dip it in and then lightly tap any sort of excess off. It's on there, and then find a strip like this strip we got here running, and then dab the sort of main bit of the ink on like that, and then spread it out sideways along the sort of jagged leaf strip like so. It is going to look really dark when you apply it, but that's just because it's still wet. When it's dry, it'll look something like that.
Here's two suits side by side. You can clearly see the right hand one has been inked and the ink is dried. It's only a very light touch, as you see, so it's only really forming the foundations of what we're about to do.
So when you come to actually applying the materials to the suit, bear in mind there's 4 colours altogether, or 3. There's these these two sort of packs here, and these are the sort of darker, warmier, really quite warm colours on the suit. So this is a sort of reddy brown, and this is a sort of just overall dark leaf. We're only going to apply these bits to the bits that are inked, and that's going to leave enough contrast, hopefully, to differentiate itself from the rest of the suit. These two here, the two larger packs, these are quite similar to the KMCS leaf, although they are, again, a tiny bit warmer. These are going to be only applied to the uninked parts of the suit. These cotton leaves have different properties to the sort of polyester, copolyester leaves of the KMCS. They're going to absorb water faster, so they'll darken quicker in a wet environment, and they're going to give off a different reflectance to the leaves on the KMCS. We're going to start to apply now the cottons to the suit. Bear in mind, you want to try to really create as much contrast at the start of the craft. You can always go back and sort of adjust things, but so that you don't lose these sort of dark streaks and patches, this is what we're going to craft first. So you can see I've sort of put in, just on this sort of little section here, about 6 cable ties, and we'll just go up that dark streak there as well. So we're just going to apply these warm colours in there, and these are the sort of reddy browns. Now this is the bit that I guess is a bit kind of finicky and technical. I'm going to bring the camera right in for this. So just to be clear, we're just applying the two darker shades of the leaves right now, the sort of warm beach colour and the sort of darker leaf. When you apply these, you get two together like that. There's different ways to do this, but you can just scrunch it up in the middle of the two things. So you'll notice on one of these leaves, you have a straight line there and a straight line there, and then the jagged edges are cut on the ends. It really doesn't matter about these straight lines, because when you're putting it into the cable tie, you break that straight line up. So you get two together, just put them on each other roughly like that, and then just scrunch them in the middle, put it in like so, and then we're going to tighten it, but not all the way. So I'll just zoom in, tighten, and leave about 3-4 clicks left on the cable tie. And then we're going to open it up into basically like a sort of flower, I guess, like so, like that. Then we go in for like full tighten, and as you see, that really looks pretty natural. I know this is a slightly more time consuming process, I guess, than just clipping a maple leaf on, but it actually can be really fast. So there you go. I'm obviously a bit used to this, but you can do it pretty fast.
The size of the leaves in this crafting pack are really meant to work alongside the KMCS leaves. They're not meant to cover it up.
So the next stage is just going to be clipping all the cable ties off the section that we've done, and then we're going to do the uncrafted section.
The reason we do the suit in sections like this is that it's very easy to get tunnel vision when crafting a suit, because it's such a long process. What I mean by tunnel vision is if you get involved in a very small section of the suit, it's very easy to say, oh, it's not working. The only way to really test a suit to see if it's working is field testing it at distance, and after maybe you've taken a break from looking at it the whole time.
I'm just going to go over now really quickly with a pair of scissors. Some of these leaves can, for some reason, like this one here, is a bit too long. Don't worry about that, just clip it back a tiny bit. I probably put it in the cable tie wrong, or it was just a slightly too big leaf. It's always okay to have something too small in a sort of leafy environment, but once you get something too big, it stands out. So with the Raffia in the pack, there's plenty in there, and you don't really need that much. The first thing you want to do is kind of screw up the ends of the whole bunch together like that. This will kind of give it a sort of less straight line. And then, like, for actually applying it to the suit, you really only want to do it in very small amounts. It's already thin for you, it's already pre-cut, and they're all kind of different lengths already. But if you are worried about like having them different lengths, you can just do that with your hand, and there you go, they're all different lengths. So the first stage, curl it around the finger like that, make the loop like that, put that through the cable tie and then back on itself like that. And that is on there for good. And then split it like that, and half of it goes back through the cable tie, and then you have raffia coming out both ends of it. Now if you really want to get like picky with this, you can then apply another cable tie to that cable tie, and this is going to send the raffia in a different direction. I learnt this trick off Thamer HP, and there you go, raffia in all directions. You can also put a leaf in there, cover the origin of the raffia up, so it doesn't look like it's all coming from one spot. There we go. And if you place them in clumps, so like 2 or 3 cable ties of raffia next to each other, that's again going to be pattern on a bigger scale, and it will look, I think, more natural. So we're outside now doing the first field test. See if you can spot it. It's there. So like, this is why we do field tests. You can see that I've kind of overdone the dark patches a bit on the size of them. It's just going to need sort of there, there and there, just 1 or 2 of those like lighter leaves in amongst them. So we're going to go and do that, and that'll be it, or at least until I see another problem. You can always go back and change. Like one of these suits is never really finished, but yeah, I know this is not really a fair test because there's nobody in it, but it is still important, I think, to do this test just to sort of check how the colours are doing and where you're at really in terms of the sort of macro pattern. So here's the sort of other side of the suit, which I haven't done yet, the front. I think it's interesting just to show like what we've achieved from uncrafted to crafted. Hopefully here you can see what I mean a bit about the coldness of the colour. It's just sort of greyish as opposed to browny thing. But again, we haven't covered all of that up. There is still that colour in the environment.
So we're going to do the balaclava now. If you're going to be wearing the hood, then there's really no point in crafting the upper section, because it's all going to be under the hood, and it's just going to be an extra layer of insulation that you really don't want.
Obviously you want to try and bush out the sides of the head as much as possible to break up the form. Don't put anything on the top, because that's the bit of your head that's going to poke above. If you're behind cover, it's going to poke above before your eyes can see the enemy. They're going to actually spot you before. So only really bulk out the sides. You can put a tiny bit on the top, but for this sort of bulking out process, we're going to use some of the coconut rope. So what you can do is apply to the ends of the coconut rope a bit of the cottons. So this might look like a time consuming process, but there's no difference between putting this on the balaclava and putting it on the coconut rope. So it's just as fast as attaching it to the suit really. And then you do one at this end. Now the sort of benefit of, you could argue here, yeah, you could just use like maple leaves and stuff, but the thing about all these fake leaves is they're made of silk, and silk, when it brushes against itself, it's very noisy. And if this is right by your ear, which it is going to be on the head, you're not going to hear anything, and you're not going to be aware of your surroundings. So this is why we use cottons and things that, when they rub against each other, don't make a noise. Another tip, if you're using a balaclava, I mean, I do it on all my balaclavas. I cut holes in them where my ears are going to be, so I can hear. You're nearly always going to hear an enemy before you spot them if they're close. Just bear in mind, you don't want these obviously flopping in front of your eyes, so try and place them in a way that when they do flop, they're not going to become in front of your eyes. So sides of the head only, remember. So there we go, that's the sort of balaclava. You can imagine that the line of, when I've got my leaf suit on, the line of my shoulder is going to kind of join about here with the balaclava, and it's going to sort of disrupt that look of a head. Alright, so I took the Balaclava actually to a game because I just needed a new brown Balaclava, and I just thought I'd show.
One thing about the cottons, you can see they're quite clearly kind of wrinkled. They've taken in moisture and they now have that really nice sort of crumply look to them. This is completely expected from cottons. This is just what they do. It gives a great texture. I know they're not quite as bulky as they once were, but they definitely have a more natural look when they're like this.
This little thing here is quite a useful little tip. That keeps the two things together so that the skin doesn't really show on the goggles. Obviously there's other ways of sort of combating that, but that's one of the tricks you can do if you haven't got crafted goggles yet.
I learnt this trick off Hawkeye.
The other mods that I deal on Balaclavas, I mean, bear in mind this is a kind of permanent mod and you might not like it, but I trim the corners off the sort of bearded section, especially on the KMCS. It has a sort of square bit there, so I've just trimmed those off to make like a point, and the same on the kind of neck piece as well. It's pretty simple, the Balaclava. Same methods as the whole suit, apart from obviously these bits. So that is the end of the video. If you have any questions, just leave a comment and I will get back to you, or you can send me a message on Instagram. I'm probably more responsive on Instagram at the moment. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. Good luck with your crafting.